Welcome to the Solid Signal podcast for the week of October 31st, 2016. You know, it's no secret that I record these podcasts on Mondays most of the time, and so as I'm recording this, it's Halloween, and so I put a Halloweeny background on the Solid Signal podcast. If you're watching it on YouTube or if you see the icon on the Solid Signal blog, and of course, I am aware that most of you are going to be listening to this later in the week when it will actually be November and the whole Halloween thing will seem completely played. But so be it. Today, it's Halloween and I'm enjoying it. You know, I've been struggling to try to understand in my mind why network television, over-the-air network television, is such a disappointment to me. Because there's a ton of programs on network TV, and I really favor the older ones where I guess my expectations are lower, but when I'm looking at new network programming, I often compare it to the same kind of programming on a premium channel like HBO or a streaming service like Netflix, and I find that it doesn't hold up. And I couldn't quite figure out why until yesterday. Well, I was waiting for the new episode of Westworld to be available, and it's an HBO program, and I have to say it's one of my favorites because it's very thoughtful. There's a lot that you can really unpack with it, and so it gives you a lot to think about in the same way that Lost used to give us a lot to think about before Lost turned into a complete mess in the last season. I had to stop myself before profanity started coming out there. So I enjoy that, and so I was looking for something else to watch, and I picked up NBC's Timeless, which had been sitting on the DVR just waiting to be watched. You know, it seems like a show kind of like Sliders or Quantum Leap, but taking itself quite a bit more seriously, with a group of perfectly coiffed millennials who seem to know everything about everything, which is the trend today. And so I started to watch. And I couldn't quite put my finger on why I didn't like it. I mean, after all, the special effects were passable, certainly as good as anything you'd find in a Hollywood feature from 10 years ago or so. The actors were, as I said, clean and well-coiffed and not incredibly bad to look at. And the plot itself actually seemed fairly reasonable. They didn't spend a lot of time just talking about time travel and the science of it. They just said, okay, so we got it, here it is, go use it. Get right into the adventure. And they made a few mistakes in their portrayal of 1937, but nothing too heinous. And yet, I still felt like it was dry. And then I figured out why. I figured out why when I went into the kitchen to make myself a snack, to be honest with you. And that's when I realized that there was nothing being shown on the screen that I needed to see. I was getting everything that I needed from the audio, almost as if this were an old radio show. I'm a fan of old radio shows. And, there's a lot you can do with radio. You can really help people paint pictures. But if you're going to create a television program, what you have to do is create one that people want to look at. And that seems like where network television is actually going wrong. When I look at Westworld and Breaking Bad and Walking Dead and a bunch of other really top-notch shows from the last several years, one thing that always strikes me is the visuals, the cinematography. I mean, this is a show, Westworld specifically, that you want to look at because there's details, there's things that you want to understand visually. And there's long periods when there's really nothing said and you're just looking at the visuals. Network television doesn't do that. Network television, it seems, is nothing but a radio show for the 21st century. Not that there's anything wrong with radio shows, but what I'm missing is that excellent quality cinematography. And you would think that broadcast television, with its massive reach and large budgets, would be able to achieve this sort of thing. I mean, clearly, Timeless had a large effects budget, so they could have had a large budget for cinematography. They just didn't. And in the end, I was left cold. I may listen to Timeless now and again, but I doubt that I will end up watching it. I'll probably just find something better on a premium channel that I like more. That's just my opinion, and I'd love to hear yours. Leave a comment after this podcast, anywhere that you watch it or see it, and I can't wait to hear how you interpret this same situation. Until then, have a great week.